Today we're talking about the dark royalty tattoo design. Alright, welcome back. You might recognize this design from the understanding lettering video, but in this video we get to go into much greater detail and you'll find out what made this design such a challenge. And before we begin, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Here, we're starting out with a quick thumbnail. Our client would like the word loyalty tattooed on the front of her lower torso, and she would like the writing to be in black gothic calligraphy. In our first meeting, we decided that the lettering should look roughly symmetrical, and that it would be perfectly fitted to the contours of her body, sort of like a corset. A big inspiration for this tattoo design comes from heavy metal and death metal logos. Heavy metal logos are usually pretty spiky, but death metal logos take that to a whole new level. We want our lettering to feel tall with these straight vertical sections, and also spiky and grungy and full of detail. And here, we have a bunch of references, mostly from Google and Pinterest, and these were provided by the client to help describe what she's looking for, so we'll keep these here for inspiration. But to create a base for our design, we're going to start with some Western calligraphy from this font website, and we can change the preview text so it says the word loyalty. And here, I'm looking for a very specific letter shape. When I see something that might work, I just take a screenshot and then cut and paste the lettering into my project, and that way there's no downloading required. The goal here is to stack a bunch of styles next to each other so it becomes easier to compare them. And once I narrow down my choices to these four, I can begin to see how the shape of these letters might compare with our original rough sketch. For this specific tattoo design, I'm mostly looking to see how the letters hold up when they're made to be very tall and narrow. This font ended up being a good starting point because you can take the flourishes from one side, flip them around, and then use them on the other side. This A will be the center point, and the letters on each side will be roughly symmetrical. And with that, we have a font that will help us make a few important choices when designing our calligraphy. Now we begin the journey of roughing out this design. In order to draw the lettering into that corset shape, we want to first create a lot of guidelines. And once those are looking good, we can flip those around to have them on both sides. And now we got a good framework for our lettering. To create the basic shapes for each letter, I like to use the smudge tool to stretch certain sections out. I'm also copying and pasting parts of previous letters and reusing them across the image. That way, the shapes are consistent and everything is roughly the same thickness. And every now and then, I'm checking with my font to help make certain choices along the way. Once this first rough assembly is done, I merge it with a white background, and then use the Liquify tool to start making changes to the overall shapes and composition. And now we're ready for another layer of roughing. This time, I'm creating some guidelines to help see the angles of each letter. I want to make sure these angles match, so I duplicate this guideline all around the image. And to get the opposite angle, I flip the guideline around and start duplicating that one. I'm just trying to get things set up the best I can because now I'm going in with another round of roughing. Only this time, I'm building out the points and the curves in each letter. I designed the letters in such a way where I can flip them and use parts when making the letters on the other side. But the lowercase l and t on the right side are naturally thinner than the letters on the left side, so I have to add an extra vertical line to each letter to help make them a little wider. And the result is these sort of strange looking glyphs, and things are starting to get more and more difficult to read at first glance, which adds a sense of mystery to this design. And this is something that my client would prefer. Now the lettering is starting to take shape, I finish up this rough pass by filling in each letter, and we can see how this looks on our blank. To get this design to fit more like a corset, I need to make it a little wider at the top and a little longer. And to get it closer to our original thumbnail, I add these long sharp spikes at the top and bottom. And now we start our final layer of roughing. Each time we do a pass, we add a little more detail, and this time we're adding more of the spikes and the curves that will make it into our final image. To help this design feel symmetrical, we're flipping and reusing a lot of these details for the other side. And all this flipping and reusing is critical when working with lettering, and it's something that the computer really helps with. But when working on tattoo designs, I love to start things on the computer. It's a great place to build out a composition, but I prefer to do my final artwork on paper and use pencils and pens to finish the design. So to transfer our composition onto paper, we'll use a technique called overdrawing. To do that, I copy our rough composition, open up a new project that's the size of a sheet of paper, and paste it in. I then lower the opacity down to about 10% and print out a copy with a laserjet printer. And now we can start making our final choices on paper. And here, I'm starting out with the mechanical pencil. Right now, I'm just working on the outline, trying to not go too heavy, and I'm adding details and grunge along the way. The shapes from our composition are still very rough and they need a lot of definition, so I'm taking my time to make sure that I get things right. And we also have a second sheet for the lower spikes. And this next part for me is a lot of fun. I don't use pen and ink for every design, but I really enjoy doing it. So I'm going to take some time and find 3 pen sizes that will work best for this piece. I need a very thin liner, another pen to backfill the points, and a brush pen for the fill. and I'm doing my pen and ink on a separate wood panel so it doesn't bleed onto my work surface. I try to keep that really clean. With this part, I'm taking my time and trying to get it looking nice. And to be honest, it's just really satisfying to use pen on paper and to get off the computer for a while. With most of the designs that I make, I'm usually dying to get to this stage as soon as possible. Next, I look over the outline and backfill all of the points, filling in any narrow black areas. These are the sections that would be tricky to fill in with the brush pen. This stage takes some time, but it makes the next step go a lot quicker, and helps me keep these points really sharp, which is so important to this design. And then we're ready for the fill. You may notice that I'm leaving some sections of the letters and not filling them in completely. And that's because we'll be adding a further level of detail inside the letters. But for now, I fill in half the letters, usually the top halves and the points at the bottom. And then I go back to the first liner. This pen is very thin and perfect for making these fine brush strokes inside of each letter. And here, I'm taking my time and trying not to make these strokes look too perfect. I want them to feel natural, as if somebody used a brush to create the calligraphy and the ink just ran out towards the end of each brushstroke. And to help sell that effect, I go in with my hardest pencil. I'm just trying to create a transition from the darkest part of the brushstroke to the lightest to enhance the brushstroke feel. And to finish off the shading, I use my softest and darkest pencil. Now, I normally don't mix pencils with pen and ink, and honestly, I kind of wish that I used acrylic paint for the shading on this one, but I'll have to save that for another day. To finish things off, I go in with my white gel pen and create some openings in the shading. And this just adds some more grunge and texture inside the lettering. And I then use my brush tip pen to sharpen up a few of the areas that I just created. And with all that done, the artwork is complete and it's looking very metal. To get the artwork back into the computer, we start by scanning it at 600 dpi and merging the two sheets into one image. I make a few quick changes using the Liquify tool and then resize the art to fit onto our blank. I noticed that while I was drawing that the A had gotten a bit too tall, so I make a few quick adjustments. When we go to fit this artwork onto our client, we can also use Liquify to change things like the height of this bottom spike, so that it ends on the narrowest part of our hips, and that way the tattoo fits the client perfectly on the day. And after a final resizing, we have our artwork ready to show the client, and a full presentation to bring to their next consultation. And that is the first draft of the Dark Loyalty tattoo design. Very metal. Hey, if you got anything out of this, then help us out by hitting the like button. And subscribe to our channel, we come out with new videos often. And make sure to hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. And if you're serious about creating the best art possible for your tattoos, then go to tattoodesignschool.com and check out the masterclass. This is everything I wish I knew when I was first starting out, and it will push you to create artwork you didn't think was possible. This is the perfect investment in your tattoo career, so check out the masterclass at tattoodesignschool.com. But most importantly, share this video with the person you know who's interested in artwork and tattoos. And we'll see you in the next one.